Hey everyone, it's Paper. Let's talk about some terrible maps I made, like, a couple years ago when I first got into making maps for Team Fortress 2. I've been meaning to make a video like this for a while, just kind of showcasing all the different projects I had been working on in Hammer for over, 2 years, I think. When I first started high school was around when I first started making maps for TF2. I remember distinctly that I binge watched UEAK Crash's excellent TF2 mapping tutorials like the week or so before ninth grade started, and yeah, and that's one of the big things that really got me into mapping. Anyway, let's talk about this first map here. This is Koff Hollow. I wonder what I should do here in terms of, yeah, this will probably look nicest. I'm not going to be actually shooting anything because I have tournament mode on and there's no people in the server, so I'm not really going to be shooting anything unless absolutely necessary. And even if I am shooting, it's going to be, general areas, and I have the scatter gun equipped and scout just so I can move around fast. Yeah, Koff Hollow. This is the first map I ever made. These first few maps that I'm going to be showcasing in this part are all of like my first few maps that I don't even have the VMF whatever files for anymore because they were made on my old computer and I'm on my new computer. So I had to just download the most recent versions I could find off of TF2 maps. There's probably a bunch of other unfinished projects that are lost on that old computer, but I don't really care about those so much as I care about these. These are the first completed, technically, in like massive air quotes, completed maps. So we got this tiny rectangular spawn here where there's barely any breathing room for you to where you spawn in, and you have this weird skylight exit that takes you all the way out to here. You have these two shutter doors here that are the wrong way around, it seems, from what I can tell. Trying to look at what else is going on here. There's this really tiny side exit here. And then there's another tiny exit here that leads into this weird looking room. So this, I guess, is the main exit. I'm trying to remember what I was thinking when I made this map. It's been so long. I just wanted to make, try my hands at mapping for the first time, and this is the map that happened. Originally, it was a lot smaller than this. I think the spawn was really tiny, and it was all the way up, like around here. Like there was no transitions between spawn and the yards and mid. I guess I can try to figure out what's going on here. There's also death pits on the side. At least I figured out how to do those. Apparently this is a one-way door. Why did I do that? Let's look here. Got these really tiny cover walls here. Very small. And again, this leads back up to this kind of sky path here. Not sure why the yard is indoors. Ooh, there's little holes in the doorway. I couldn't figure that out either. Wonderful me. I'm good at my job. This really tiny roofed area here. This room apparently has a truck inside of it. At least I was smart enough to include a door to give an explanation as to why the truck is here. You can hide around. And then there's these really tiny, really steep underground passages that lead to this middle area with a full health kit directly underneath the midpoint. A very bizarre decision. Kind of got a bit inspired by I think it's a Highlander competitive map called Asheville, although I jokingly call it Assville because it's one of my least favorite competitive maps in the game. With this little area here, people were able to jump around really easily in this map, so I had to implement this viaduct over top to prevent people from doing whatever. Really tiny cover walls. There's a lot of things that I didn't know about mapping then that I know now. I know I didn't know what overlays were because I forget what the tool is called in Hammer, but it's not an overlay. It's like a false overlay. It's a farce. And it's also worse than an overlay. An overlay is way more powerful, and you can tell that I couldn't figure out what overlays were at the time because I put these weird blocky objects underneath of all the health packs, and then I would later learn that you're supposed to put overlays underneath them. And you got these weird staircase rooms that don't look very good. You get this lower area. Overall, I don't really know entirely all of my thought decisions behind exactly what I did with the map, but it's not very good. But it is definitely, it's, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Like, it's a playable map. It has all the bells and whistles where you could actually, you know, play around, capture the control point and stuff. It's functional, but it's not good. I wanted at least my first map to be functional and to try my hands at the editor. And I mean, I kind of got brushworks and stuff down. Eventually, when I got to this version, I started getting a little better handle on scaling, like, you know, having the spawns back here and there actually be transitions between the areas, because again, the spawn I think was about like here-ish, and then it kind of leads to there. Also, way too much use of these security fences. Doesn't look very good. Just not very good. Kind of experimented, I guess, with detailing here. Just some boxes, trucks, you know, and then these little arch bridges. There's not a whole lot else to say about this map because, I don't know, it's just, it's one of those. It's a bad first map. That's what's going to happen when you just get started with Hammer. You're not going to be a genius. So, there's Koff Hollow. There's probably not a whole lot else to talk about it. So I'm just going to hop into no clip and just kind of fly around, give a more broad overview of what it looks like. There's the spawns, there's the interior transition room, so I guess that's kind of the first yard. Then this is the transition, these three transitions that are all the same way. And then you have this yard here, this bizarre middle building that leads underground. Oh yeah, this was also before I knew what displacements were, as evident by the fact that this area here, this gray area, which would probably be made of land, is not displacements. There are no displacements. I was also way too cautious about how I used textures. I wanted textures to be distinct. Like, certain floors had to be this orange texture, and other floors had to be the gray texture, and certain walls all had to match, whatever. Roofs always have to be gray. I still have some texture consistency now, but it's nowhere near as much of an eyesore. Oh yeah, the one thing I was obsessed with was making it so that you could tell ramps apart from the back wall they were on. Not sure why, though, because that's what lighting is for. Lighting helps you tell the difference between where a ramp is, and also the fact that it's a fucking ramp that sticks out from the wall. I don't think it's very hard to figure it out. But overall, it's a first map. There's not a whole lot else you can expect of it other than, yeah, first map. It has all of the first map problems. So, moving on to the next one. Alright, and welcome to Koff Ditch. What is going on here? I think this is supposed to be a spawn room. We have a spawn room here. We got a door. Again, still don't know what overlays are. Really tiny hallway leads out to here and here. This was my random-ass attempt to create a custom game mode. I remember kind of that much at one point. It was very strange. I wanted to make a 2CP map. It was like, it's like territorial control, except there's no other territories. And it was hot garbage. That sky pathway there is just for decoration this time, thank God. We have the point here, which is not at all easily accessible from either spawn. It's way too big. I don't remember the cap times or any of the specifics of that one, of these older maps. I remember still had scaling issues here. This building here used to be the spawn, and I remember there was a version where there was an upper room where you spawn, and then you drop down into here so that you could pick a direction. It didn't work very well. I don't think you could get up here before, like in the oldest versions. I think I added this ramp later. For some reason I added this here to surf on, just because I thought that'd be fun. That's supposed to block sightlines, but I don't think it does a very good job of it. Another one of those. Here's the ship building. This is from this ship here, I believe, is from the Invasion update. If I can get on top of it, thank you. Or, you know, we can just cheat our way on top of it. Yeah, so this boat, I believe, is from Invasion. I think it was from, what is the map called? It's the one with you have to feed beer, Watergate. It's Watergate. The map is called Watergate. This is the boat from Watergate. I kind of got inspired by that to make this. This was the map where I first learned about displacements, and I made 2 mirrored displacements, and I think those are the only 2 displacements in the whole map. Yeah. This random bridge here that just doesn't look good at all. Excuse me about the voice crack, I'm kind of sick. It's just a very long bridge with not a whole lot going on. Got getting a little better with designing buildings. Oh yeah, one of the other weird things that I had with designing maps is that I had because I thought when you were lighting different parts of the map, you had to have orange, like faint orange lighting on red side and faint blue lighting on blue side. And what I eventually learned is that you should probably just use regular white lights until you really know what you're doing. And I didn't. So, you know. Hey, this looks familiar. A crate, a set of tires. This tire appears to be clipping through existence itself. And a truck. Tiny ass building here. I don't know why I was obsessed with having shutters everywhere. That's not what you do to block sight lines. Oh yeah, I tried to make a 2CP, and then eventually, when that didn't work, I just made a 3CP, which also doesn't work, just fundamentally doesn't work. It's a weird little dock building just kind of in the middle of the water. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's small. It is a small map. It's too small. But I felt better about it than I did, also these weird extra tall fences. I felt better about it than I did with Hollow. So, there's that. I'm not entirely sure if I would call it an improvement. Oh yeah, there's also this gigantic sky pathway up here that I almost forgot about. It's just this whole connecting area. And for some reason I also put these weird lamps on all of the lights. Why did I do that? I really don't know why I made some of these decisions. It's also hard to tell that these windows are open. Just because the glass is so transparent. If I'd used like more translucent glass, maybe it'd be easier to tell. Also obsessed with making these staircases look like this. Not sure why. Not sure why I didn't just think, hey, maybe it'd be better if they just stuck with if I just stick with ramps in Alpha, you know? Just stick with ramps. It makes things easier. Way too many uses of those walls there. There's this. It's kind of hard. It's still hard to talk about a lot of these maps, again, with how old they are from a couple years ago. But yeah, here's the overview of the map. It's very blocky. The scaling is just way off everywhere. And it's just not very good. But it's kind of an improvement from Hollow. So there's that. There was some skill progression as I made these maps. I'm not entirely sure how evident it's going to be in these beginning maps, but it was evident. It's also mirrored symmetry, and I don't think these rocks mirrored very well. I think this was my first attempt at mirrored symmetry. The Koff map was rotational symmetry, which didn't really work out too well given what I had going on in the underneath area, but oh well. That's old news. I guess on to the next map. Ah yes, so welcome to PL Paywell, my first and worst attempt at a payload map. Things are getting a tad bit better. Learned a bit more stuff. Oh, yes. Uh-huh. This. Yeah, so I think that's a death pit down there. Pretty sure. Let me check. Yep. I put a death pit in spawn in this one. So that's a pretty good indicator of the quality that this map has. Oh yeah, and you spawn directly across from the exit, so you can get sniped the moment you spawn in. Wonderful. And this also random pipe water exit. I was improving with geometry though. That's kind of what was going on here. I managed to make these round tubed pipes that the players could travel through. Giant ass window lets you see everything, even though it's not very helpful. This building leads you way too far over there. So yeah, it was an attempt to be kind of a dynamic payload map going on, because I'm trying to remember exactly what happens. You have this little transition here that lets you go from here into here, and I think it locks off. I think it locks off for only the red... It's either it locks off for the red team, or it just locks off completely. Once you've capped either... I think it's this one, I think. I think when you cap that point, it locks off those doors. Anyway, so just a bunch of just geometry slapped into this tiny, tiny little space. You have this tower here. It's just kind of an attempt. Did a bit of an attempt on detailing with having, you know, this second story that's blocked off. You know, it's kind of interesting. And then you have the water here. Not a whole lot going on with the water. The bridge, it's really tiny and cramped. I'm not even entirely sure all the logic works properly. Still don't know why I put a bridge here that extends. I think this is supposed to delay the blue team from coming over here, but why wouldn't I just make it so that capping this unlocks this exit rather than this weird door thing? Because this is accessible from the start. Don't get me wrong, it's accessible from the start. If you can jump over to there, you got a massive, bizarre flank. There's kind of this boring cliff area. Did a bit more odd detailing. I had this kind of campsite up there. I'd put fire if I was actually, you know, good at mapping, and this was a thing. If I had been good at mapping at the time, and I'd thought to do so, I would have tried to put like flame particles on that log or something. I really don't even know how to do that now, but that's because I've never gotten a map out of alpha. So, you know, one can only hope. Just these tiny little buildings, these weird window props, these weird reused crates and textures that don't make a whole lot of sense. I think, yeah, this leads to D? I think there were originally, like, only 3 cap points on this one, and then I made it into 4 just out of necessity because some logic wasn't working properly and I had to ask someone for help. It was a kerfuffle. What basically happened was... It was this door right here. This door was giving me an insane amount of trouble trying to set it up, where you cap this, and then it parks about here, and then the door rises up. Just kind of a shameless ripoff of Snowy Coast there. Didn't work out too well. Also, I didn't know how to turn off shadows and props, so this just looks weird. Random turbine here. I think that's the first red spawn. Yes, red spawn's here first. Very bizarre placement of a door. I think it's because I was obsessed with having the well door props here. And yeah, you come out this way, kind of get a glimpse to the final point. You come out this way. It's just this weird area. Yeah, this leads you to A, kinda. A is way too close to the spawn. I think I tried to justify it by having this ramp here, but it's not enough. Building thing here. At least the props aren't floating. Oh! It looks like I did figure out overlays with this map. That's good to know. This is when I figured out how to use overlays. For some reason decided not to use any displacements in this one, though. I think this unlocks when you cap B, which is over there, and that's another rollback zone. That's what they're called. This gigantic rounded thing. I was proud of that at the time. Not so much now. And then this convoluted last area. I think instead of thinking to make like a forward spawn or something, I instead opted to have this, just this door area that leads you to last, just kind of out here. I think the reason I put this sign here is because I didn't know how to put a no entry texture on this side of the door, because I was obsessed with using the what's them called? The little, you can, when you download a Boojum Snarks mapping pack, you get a whole bunch of pre-made entities for you, including working doors. And this was one of them, and I didn't know how to change the skin of the door at the time. In fact, I didn't think I knew how to change the skins of props in general. Yeah. And then this is the last. Last is probably the worst part of the map. It's just super convoluted. This train doesn't work out too well. I think I had to add clipping to this because it was originally non-solid train. This really tiny building that doesn't serve much of a purpose. It's just things thrown into vague boxes. It just doesn't work out too well, and it's super cramped. It's just kind of a theme with these older maps of mine, is everything is just too cramped. Apparently another experiment with detailing here with this. Even though you can't actually see the inside of this building, I decided to put just a random little thing there anyway. That's a fun Easter egg I didn't remember until now. Also had a lot of problems with leaks because I didn't know how to compile with no lighting and no whatever and not running the game to check for leaks. But yeah, I learned. I eventually learned. Also, I don't think I knew how to stretch textures either. Or move textures even, as evident by this. I don't know. There's just things everywhere. It's just a whole assortment of things thrown into rooms that don't make a whole lot of logical sense. It's a slightly better attempt. I mean, it's a payload map. That's a step up entity and complexity wise from the other two maps, but overall it just didn't work out too well as a map. Slightly better, but not too much. Next. Oh boy, this map. This was the first map that I was truly proud in. This is CP Pagoda. It's a 5 CP map that for some reason I decided to fully texture, despite it not even being close to done. The layout is not the best. It's not the worst, though. This is yet another very, very minor improvement from maps prior. I think this one, unlike the other maps, this one was definitely overscaled, just in general. I don't know why I had this chicken wire area here. I think the reason I did this was so that you could see the last here, just because for some reason I set it up where the last is kind of directly aligned with the wall of the spawn exit, and it just doesn't work out too well. Got these giant ramps here, not a whole lot going on. There's like no packs, not even small packs in this room, which might hurt it, might hurt it, might not. And there's this random ammo back here. There are these maze-like flank rooms here, this giant room that makes no sense. Wonderful. Look at that sight line. And then, oh, there's some packs here. And then you have, I think I finally learned how to skin props, but only because on one of the first tests of the map, they were like, you know, you can skin props. It was because of these crates here. I didn't know how to skin them to be red and blue to match the sides. Just these, got some random walls here, packs up here. Not sure why there'd be a full ammo pack in this particular kind of area. It's kind of maze-like. This whole last transition is just a maze. This area underneath the stairs is useless. This is meant to be the main route. It's kind of Badland expired. This door is way too big. These sight lines look kind of extreme, although I'm not entirely sure. I think this is where I really tried to took advance. No, I don't know what I'm trying to say. So you got second. Let's just move on. Yeah, you got second. I think this is a forward spawn. This is when I started figuring out how to get the spawns of that, forward spawns, whatever, working. Got more object stacking to climb up. Not entirely purposeful because you have a ramp that lets you get up. I guess this will let you get up over here. Not sure what this was for. Maybe this is just some detailing. Got these large windows. I think, oh yeah, this connects to the last area. You can walk through here and just kind of go around. Just the second. I don't remember how the second played out. There's a ramp up here, this underneath area. Very bizarre underneath area, having grass that leads out to the mid, which is interesting because it seemed like people actually kind of liked the mid when it was tested. Kinda. It might have just been me getting... Oh, maybe I didn't entirely learn how to skin props properly because that is red, even though it is on blue's balcony. Very strange. Also not sure why this is just kind of a cutout. There's also missing textures because I didn't know how to pack textures at the time, as evident by this roof. I believe it's some blue roof texture. I don't remember. And then there's just this giant tower that was going to be some sort of pagoda later on. And these big trees. This mid here was the most alright thing I had made at the time. Again, I don't remember if I knew how to scale textures properly, so I made this really thick. This is another forward spawn. I remember I had to move this window over because the door would clip through the bottom of the window and it would look funny. Yeah, this is a forward spawn. What else is going on here? It's kind of a little alcove. the fences. Didn't know how to retexture the fences. Yeah. So not a whole lot to say about this one. It went through a lot of different iterations, each slightly not as bad as the last. This was the one I was most proud of for a while, and for some reason, when barely anyone complained about it in the feedback part of TF2 maps, the little feedback site where you can automatically give feedback through chat commands while you're testing the map, and then we'll send it to that site. What I didn't know at the time was that you can't just read the feedback. This is the other reoccurring theme. Reading the feedback on feedback.tf is not enough in determining what you should do with the map. You need to play the map yourself with other people, run around it, jump around it, and also look at the demos of people playing the map and see where they go, what areas they like, what they don't like, how possible or impossible it is to push through certain areas, things of that nature. Also, way too much usage of these trees. I don't know why I like these trees in particular. They're too big. They kind of work more in the skybox, I think. They don't really work well in the play area. But, once again, map slightly better than those that had come before it, learning new things. And I think what I was going to say is I got overzealous. Maybe overzealous is the wrong word. When I said that I didn't see any complaints on the feedback thing, I thought that it was ready for beta. It was not ready for beta. And I thought beta meant, hey, I can start putting textures everywhere because the layout is done. What it actually means is alpha is you nail down the gameplay. Alpha is you nail down the gameplay the most. Beta is you nail down the gameplay and fine-tune it more, and then you also do a bit of detailing. And then around the last bits of beta and RC testing is when you do most of the detailing and getting it finished. And I have gotten nowhere near that point, so, and this is kind of a testament to that. So, yeah, that was the 5CP. There's one more for this part of the video. The last map that I had to download because I don't have the VMFs for them anymore. And now we are on the last map that I had to download. This is Kafkagnyana, and this is another map where the reason this one is fully textured is not because I thought it could go into beta, far from it, because it's only an A3, which is, I guess, the third version, but just because I got bored of it, pretty much. That's the basic explanation there. Kind of a step up from the last time I tried to make from the last time I made a Koff map from that moment. Definitely better than Koff Hollow. You got the little yard area. You have kind of these just kind of weird transition. Oh, yes. The very strange cliff designs. That actually leads towards the point, I think. Yeah, it turns and then goes this way. Bit of attempt at detailing here with the shack. Can you get on top of the shack? Let's see if you can get on top of the shack. You can get on top of the shack. Cool fucking beans. I don't think you can jump over that, though. I'm not sure. There's a little wall here. So I did a try transitional areas. I got this little sloping down area, kind of blocking off the sight lines. This fence looks weird. I think that's a one... Why would I make that a one-way door? Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for a Koff map. You don't... It's probably hard to even know that there's a route this way because of the way the walls are set up. These are basically the only two routes you have out of spawn, and they lead... Two of them lead basically to the same area, and this one is just kind of a maze. You come out here, still giant open area, but not as bad. Not sure why this texture is super shrunk. Kind of experimenting a bit with diagonal geometry though, which is a little better than previous other attempts. Maybe it was these props that I was having trouble with having proper clipping for. Yeah, you can use these shipping containers on trains. Really into putting trains in maps. Not moving trains, though, because that would require too many entities. Getting through here, which is kind of side area, meant to be enticing, but it's not very well designed. It's just cramped, especially down here. It's kind of cramped, and the geometry itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The mid is pretty cramped with how indoorsy it is, although I think I could probably make a much better indoorsy kind of map of that nature now, and in fact I am working on one. that has an indoor Koff mid that should be a lot better. Technically, there's also one that's almost entirely indoors, but that one doesn't really count because it's just kind of big. Okay, well, give me a second. Okay, so I accidentally died. I didn't mean to die. So yeah, I'm just going to hop into no-clip straight away with this one because it's just big and it's a lot of things that are indoors. You get this big old building here. You have the kind of side transition building here. I guess that's supposed to be a balcony. And then there's this kind of bizarre middle section. Really obsessed with making these grating type walls here for cover. But they don't blend in very well just because I guess it's mainly because the bars are too thick. The cliff area by far is the weirdest decision I had in the map. Like, you can just come out this way and die for some reason. I mean, there's a full health kit there. I knew that would be enticing. Not sure why I split off this wall with hazard tape. I guess, oh, it's because it's two different brick textures. You have the light blue brick, and then you have the very faint pink brick for red and blue side. No, that's paper. That's not how you do it. Not really how it works. Oh yeah, and then there's also this area above the point. That's what this leads to. It leads to the roof. And the roof doesn't lead anywhere to the mid, which actually might have been helpful for gameplay if it did, but it's just kind of up there. These bizarre thick planks that lead up to the roof. All in all, very bizarre design decisions on this one. Not exactly terrible decisions, but just bizarre. Get this building that looks like it was ripped. Building that looks like it was ripped straight out of a series of unfortunate events. Dangling off the cliff there. It's just very odd. It's just a whole lot of odd decisions. And that's to be expected with very early maps, is that it's going to have weird decisions, especially with these textures. Like, you don't have buildings with textures split down the middle like that. That's not how, it's not how the team splitting up the zones is. But yeah. Kind of a similar detailing on this side. But yeah, not a whole lot to talk about, mainly because I don't entirely exactly know what to talk about other than the fact that the maps are very amateurish in a lot of very similar ways across these first few maps, especially these first few maps. But it's definitely good to look back at history, see where you started, and see how you've improved in the future. So the next part, the next video, I guess, will be about the later maps. Let me know if you like this idea, the 3 of you that are probably watching. This idea of going through all my old mapping projects and seeing what they're like. But yeah, so those were the first 5 complete map projects that I had uploaded to Team Fortress 2 maps. They didn't turn out very well, but they were a good learning experience for the Hammer editor, and hopefully these will be the stepping stones, along with many, many, many other stepping stones that will lead me to one day possibly making a good map. A good community map. Yeah. See ya.